Hi there, bună ziua, jó napot mindenkinek. Funny thing, my first ever public speech was 20 years ago in this room. It was my first campaign speech ever in my life. I was trembling and I felt totally unsafe. When I was listening to Raluca, I had the feeling that we talked before. Because she was talking about leadership and she was talking about what happens with a team when the leader do not have auto-reflection. And she said, the members of the team will not feel safe. So we are going to discuss today what is happening to the teams where the people inside do not feel safe, from performance point of view, from psychological point of view. But before, let's say that you had an exam at the doctor recently, and the doctor said, you are too stressed. You need to be careful not to have any more stress in your life. And you have 3 choices to make. First choice is a very sterile, low stress environment. When you stay alone with your thoughts, you can meditate. There is no stressors. Second one, your daily life, you go to work, you come back, you live a regular human life. Third, you will be a combat veteran fighting a battle in Afghanistan. Which of the 3 scenarios would you choose in order to keep your stress level down? Second one, going to work. Other opinions? There is no wrong answer, because we are talking about psychological safety. Come on. Very interestingly, we say if we want to avoid stress, we need to eliminate the stressors. And Mihai talked about human beings, and also Raluca said human beings do not like to stay alone with their own thoughts, especially if they do not practice this before. And there is a very interesting study which says, if I put you in an environment where you get bored, and I give you the option to electroshock yourself every now and then, 70% of the people chooses to electroshock himself just to not stay with the boredom. So we cannot stand boredom. So this leaves us with 2 options. And the reason I wrote the book was because I was talking with a combat veteran, Radu Prădescu. He served 16 years in the army. And he was in 3 different operations, 2 in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. And after a common speech, we went out, and Radu told to me, Magor, when I was in Afghanistan in combat situation, most of the time my stress level was much lower than in a normal, regular job. Now he's a CEO of a very big company, Autonom Lease. And I was like, Radu, how is that possible? As far as I know, nobody in your job tries to kill you every day. In Afghanistan, you have a lot of bearded, angry guys who actively try to eliminate you. And Radu told me, yes, but in Afghanistan, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew my mission, why I am there. I knew what I have to do every day at the behavior level. And most important of all, when I knew that I have a team, I knew that each of every individual from that team will give his life in order to save mine. So I knew that every team member is there for me. I also knew who is the enemy, from which direction he's coming, what kind of weaponry he has, what kind of tactics they use. So I didn't have to stress because I was trained to be in the combat situation. I just stood there and did what I was trained to do. And I said, okay, that makes some sense. And he said, but in a normal job, we are saying that I'm part of a team. For instance, I'm part of the sales team. Do you know that every team member is there also for you? Will they hold their backs, your back, when something goes wrong in the team? Because what I see every day in different organizations, we are saying that we are a team, but everybody is avoiding punishment or getting the bonus. And we cannot all access the bonus. 1 or 2 of us gets the bonus, so we try to be better than our own teammates. We are not there for each other. So sometimes I say that I'm in the team, but the guy next to me might not do anything in order to help me or my performance. So I never know which is my team. I do not know many times who are we competing. Are we competing inside the team? Or are we competing with the competition on the market? And you know, what our companies are saying when we ask, what is the most important resource for us? What a normal company answers. People is the most important for us. Let's see then, how important is people? How are we able right now statistically to create connections with people at the workplace? This is the map of the engagement globally. Gallup is doing this study every year. They are looking how engaged are with our work. This means when you wake up in the morning, your first thought is, I can't wait to get to the work. I want to give my best, I want to contribute, and I'm directly interested of the success of my company. This is what engagement is called. You can see the dark zones. The dark zones are the zones where the engagement level is highest, and the whiter it gets, it's going down. What do you think if you would give a wild guess? What is a high engagement? Let's say the darkest place. What is the percentage of the people who go there every morning in the work in order to give their best? A number. 60, 40, 30. Nobody higher. 80. Funnily enough, in the last 25 years since Gallup is measuring engagement, the number is between 18% and 22% globally. What does this mean? Out of 10 people who wake up in the morning and start to go toward work, only 2 is committed giving his best. What we see a dark area, it might be around 40%. And we have different reasons. In some areas, you know that you can be replaced. You know that we are a lot of people. There are very little job. If you have a job, you do your best because you want to keep your job. In the other areas, job is part of your identity. In Romania, sometimes when I talk with people and I ask about their personally, many times they say, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I have 2 kids, I love my kids, and then they are talking about work. In other cultures, if I ask somebody, they will talk, for instance, one of my very dear friends is a VP in a very big company. Every time I'm calling him, asking how is he, how is the family, how are the kids, and so on, and every time I need to listen to him 15 minutes telling me about his work. But I'm not interested in his work. But I still have to wait because this is very important for him, so I need to do it. Let's look at Europe. In Europe, 13% of the people wakes up in the morning in order to go to work to give his best. Funny thing, 72% is playing for survival. And playing for survival doesn't mean that I'm doing always the minimal work. You know, there is a corporate saying for this, if I'm paid just enough not to quit, I will work just enough not to get fired. It's a fair deal. 70% means, so surviving means you have a good manager, you have a project you like, you have something which motivates you for a month, for a year, for a couple of years you are giving your best. Then you go out in front of your company, you see, is there a statue for me yet? There is no statue, I might as well rest a bit. And he said, I did my work now for a year, I'm going to lay low. This is the survival. But interestingly enough, 15% of the people are getting up in order to do some damage in the company. And you will say in this room, no, not in our company, not us, never. You know what happened? You wanted to get promoted. And you did your job, you did everything, you overperformed. And your laziest colleague, who always only does PR, never the work, he got promoted. And you are sitting there and analyzing and you say, I will not quit, but I will show it to you. I will show that he's not a good manager. I will show that without me, this team is not performing. And from then, your main goal will not be to deliver your results. Your main goal will be to prove that the team is not functioning, hoping that someday, maybe you will get the promotion. And we have those people. But sometimes we are avoiding it because interaction with them is not so easy. Why am I sharing this information with you? Because this is highlighting the exact point which I tried to make with the 3 examples. How we feel don't have anything to do with the threat level in our life. Let's presume generally, if I'm here at this stage, my brain rationally should tell to me, I have nothing to worry about. I was invited here. Probably you are friendly and educated and nice people, but every time I need to make the step out, I feel my stomach crumbling and I feel my legs a bit shaky. It has nothing to do how safe we feel with the level of the threat in our life. This is why Radu in Afghanistan did not feel threatened, because he had a group, he had clarity, and he had safety. And these are the 2 elements we should be looking every time when we are looking at our companies, our relationships, and everything. Do we have clarity? Do we have safety? And let's see, how would you define psychological safety? Personally, it's no definition. How would you define psychological safety? What does it mean to you to feel safe? Sorry? No fear of failure. Very good point. What else? When you said no fear of failure, did you feel something?
Yes.
What did you feel? Seinfeld said, I'm that old that I was watching Seinfeld. Seinfeld said that there is a statistic in America which says that the number 1 fear of Americans is speaking in public. The second fear of Americans is dying. So he concluded that most of Americans at a funeral prefer to be in the casket than speaking. Theoretically, I asked you, and you gave a good answer, but still, you are projecting thoughts because you remember when in the school, the professor said, does anyone have a question? And because I was a naive guy, I said, yes, I have a question. And she said, Csibi, you didn't pay attention again. I explained it 3 times already. And I was like, I thought this is about the question. It was not about the question. We are used with interaction when people are not really interested of what we are going to say unless we are wrong. This is why psychological safety is our belief that nothing can happen to us if we say what we think. There will be no judgment. There will be no small jokes. There will be no punishment. But it's very hard for us to accept that this situation can exist because we have so little experience with psychological safety in our lives. And this is why we can very easily assess the level of threat in our lives. I was in the morning running next to Târgu-Mureș in a forest, and I could assess if a bear is there or not. And I could put the fear level, but if I see a bear and I'm getting away from the bear, my stress level is going down. In companies, we are not able to assess the safety level. How would you assess if you feel safe or not? Or how would you assess if you were ever been in a team, part of a team, where there was psychological safety? Ideas? Okay, you can ask. Very good. By experience. Very funny thing. We are saying in general that we are good readers of people. So we can assess people. When I started my executive career, I had a colleague of mine which in the first week I had a very bad interaction with her. She was working at the reception, and I was the CEO. And I had the idea that she does not like me. So I tried to go to work before her, not to interact with her. And I tried, to sneak out the office, just not to have interaction. And 7 years I was working with her. When you finish your career, you send out a very nice email saying, after 7 wonderful years, I leave a piece of my heart here, and so on and so on. And she responds. And she says, Magor, since the day you came in, I admired you. But somehow I had the impression that you are avoiding me. I always wanted to learn from you, so now that we are not colleagues anymore, can we go out and have a cup of coffee? And I just sat there and I said, during 7 years working in the same office with her, I was totally convinced that she does not like me. How many relationships I have misjudged in my life just because something somewhere happens, and we have a lazy brain who likes to do shortcuts. If it's a resemblance with right now what is happening, and 10 years ago, he will say, this is certainty. And this is the problem. So I would like to give you a tool in order to assess the level of safety of your relationships personally and also at work. When you talk with somebody, from the forming of the thought that what you want to say until you actually say it, how big is the distance? Are you able, look in the eyes of someone and a thought pops up and just say it? Or you are thinking, maybe I should reformulate it because I care about the relationship. Maybe I should be a bit more careful with my words. Or when you are writing an email, if you are rewriting the email 5, 6, 7 times, it means that you are not feeling safe. Every time you put a filter and another filter and another filter of what you are trying to say, it means that you feel threatened. And many times we are saying we do this in order to protect our relationships. If you are wearing a mask, if you are not authentic in order to protect a relationship, you are protecting a fake relationship. So it does not worth it. And the funny thing, we are talking about psychological safety since the 50s. Some university professors are talking about psychological safety from the 50s because nobody was interested in, because it does not bring in profit. That's what we thought. Until 1999, a researcher from Stanford, Amy Edmondson, started to do a research. But this is a funny thing. She was not looking for psychological safety. She was researching medical teams in Greater California area. What she was researching, she was looking how well different medical teams are administering antibiotics and medication after operations. And she started to look at the results. These are each of the teams, how many errors they reported. And then she compared it with the death rates and the failure rates of the different teams. Guess which was the team which had the lowest death rate in this table? Sorry, the first one. Why is that? Very nice point. So first, when the results came in, Amy Edmondson watched that the death rate here is the smaller, and it's growing and growing and growing. And she said, this is just not possible. How is it possible that the worst performing team is having the best results? So because she didn't understand the data, she hired a lot of medical professionals in order to supervise the teams, and they realized that every team makes around 20 mistakes every day. But there are teams which are reporting the mistakes, and there are teams which are hiding the mistakes. And this was one of the breakthroughs. The funny thing is, if you have the presence of psychological safety in the team, you are reporting mistakes which are not even mistakes. Because you just want to be sure that you are not making anything in order to put the patients in jeopardy. And you know, basically when you are looking at this, these are all trained professionals. They all gave the Hippocratic vow. They all said we are here in order to save lives. They all want sincerely to save lives. And these are the differences. And many times we are saying, in our team, we don't make mistakes. Many times when I'm called to different companies, because I deal with behaviors inside teams and dynamics and so on, they are saying, our company is wonderful. Everybody is smiling. We are never arguing. It's wonderful. And I always say, the absence of conflict for me is telling the level of psychological safety is low. Because in general, we tend to think that conflict is destroying our relationship, but it's not. If we are able to have constructive conflicts, in general, the relationship gets stronger out of this. There is a famous psychologist, Gottman. He's looking at couples, and he's saying, you can assess your relationship if after a fight, when you discuss and you finalize the fight, if you feel stronger, it means that your relationship is evolving and you are not going to break up. If you feel weaker after each fight, it means that the relationship naturally will die. How quick this is, up to you. How big is the tolerance level for you? So the whole idea is, Amy Edmondson realized the higher the level of psychological safety in a team, the higher the performance in a team. What do you think happened with the research after she published the study? Sorry?
It got buried.
It got buried. Why?
Because it takes an effort to get safety in the team.
Does it? Of course, it's hard for us to grasp the concept. Because for us, it's very hard to grasp the concept of emotions. As Raluca said, the message that we received, here at home, you might cry from time to time. But now we are at school. You don't cry because you make a fool out of yourself. Every time we try to bury our emotions, not to acknowledge, not to take out. So what happened is worse than got buried. It got ignored. Nobody cared about the concept of psychological safety. Another research, in the area of researchers, they talked about it, but otherwise nothing happened. And this was in 1999. Until, and we are at the IT conference, one of the giants in IT, Google, said, let's study performance in our organization. So what they did, during 5 years, they looked at all variables in their own teams, especially the high-performing teams, in order to determine what is causing performance in their teams. And they did some really crazy experiments. For instance, they started with the classical things. If everybody is friend in a team, do they have better results? No. If everybody is Ivy League, very highly educated, do we get better results? No. If everybody is Capricorn in a team, and this is a real thing, they studied also that, does it guarantee better results? And the answer is again, no. And then they discovered Amy Edmondson, and they reframed the research, and they found out that psychological safety is by far the highest predictor of a success of a team. So they said, if we are able to generate in teams where people even don't like each other, if we are able to generate psychological safety between themselves, performance is guaranteed. And look here, sales revenues on that teams went up 50%. Leadership, when they were looking at those teams, they said, these are high performance. So it was visible from the open eye. They were less likely to leave. And this is the biggest problem that we have. Many companies are afraid to invest in high potential because what happens if the high potential leaves? We don't invest in them. Google found out if we are generating Psychological safety in a team. Not just regular people will become high performers, but they don't want to leave because they feel safe. Why would you want to leave a place when you feel safe? And this is very hard for us to understand because most of my career during, 34, 35 years, if you came to me and you said, Magor, I love my job, I looked at you and I said, good for you. But inside my head, I said, you are a liar. Nobody likes his job. And I had to say this because I never loved any of my jobs. And I did not do that because I'm an unadapted or I didn't have results or I didn't have good relationships with my teams. Just because I never felt safe, I never felt accepted, and most of the time I felt if I'm not wearing a mask, if I'm not altering my behaviors in order to be accepted of the team, I will not get accepted. Every time I felt that I need to do an effort in order to be part of the team. And that is very tiresome. Second thing what Google discovered, dependability. Your performance, the second biggest thing influencing your performance, are you able to depend on the people on the left and on the right? And this is what Radu said. I felt safe because I knew that I can depend on the guys. If they are saying they are going to deliver something, they will do it. I don't need to overthink it. I don't need to guess it. I don't need to micromanage it. It is going to happen. And we tend to overlook how important is that. We are forcing people because this is the problem with managing with pressure. Management with pressure works only if we are in a real crisis. If we are using pressure management on people in situations when there is no crisis, people will promise some things they are not able to deliver. And this will bring down the dependability on the team because what we will see, everybody is promising everything and nobody is delivering anything. So my uncertainty level is very, very up. And the third one, structure and clarity. If it's not clear for me what is expected of me at my workplace, how do you expect me to deliver? And then again, meaning and impact. And Generation Z is entering the workplace and they are saying, don't tell me about salary. Tell me about the story of your company. What are we doing here? And guys like me, older guys, we are like, whoa, we never thought about this. Should we have a story? Okay, let's work on the story. Let's hire a PR guy to create a story. Until you actually realize that your company, if it's existing on the market, it is doing something good. Otherwise, it would not be existing on the market. And the third one, impact. You want to feel that your work contributes to something. No matter how small it is, you want to feel that you have impact in your life because otherwise, life is meaningless. If we look only on those 5 things in every team, performance will increase. And here is the thing, we are saying, yes, but psychological safety is hard. Is it? Is it? Is it hard to express who you actually are? Is it hard to take a chance on authenticity? I had a discussion, a few days ago with one of my clients. They are entrepreneurs. They are working together for more than 20 years, and they are wonderful guys. And they both of them told me, I'm afraid to tell what I really think about the other because I'm afraid that our relationship would suffer. And what I told, your relationship is already suffering because he's not telling you what he's thinking, you are not telling him what you are thinking, and nobody's learning anything. You are suffering in silence, pretending that because it's no conflict between you, there is no suffering, but you are already suffering. If you want to give a real chance to the relationship, open the conflict and see if you stay together after that. Because even if you split after the conflict, it means it was not a good relationship. Don't be afraid. Address those things. Psychological safety is absolutely paramount. Because what happens if you don't feel safe? What do you do? Sorry? Run. Sometimes yes, but unfortunately we are creatures of habit. So if I'm at a workplace for, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I get a really toxic manager, I will not run because I stayed too much. I invested already too much here. What do you do when you feel unsafe? What else? Sorry? Bare minimum. Survive. 73% of the people are doing the bare minimum. What else? Sorry? If you are afraid, your main goal in the team is to protect yourself. You are not thinking about performance. You are not thinking about high hopes. You are not thinking about empathy, relationships, authenticity, vulnerability. You are saying, what do I have to do to have zero threat in my life? And probably most of the threats that we are thinking that they are there are imagined. As I imagined the threat with one of my former colleagues who actually liked me. I never had the chance and I never had the courage to go to her and ask her, you don't like me? That's simple. Just go and ask. Because when you protect yourself, and this was discovered in 1956, sociologist and psychologist Erving Goffman said that in a group setting for a normal human being is more important what the group thinks about that person than what the person thinks about himself. It is called management of the image. For you, it is more important how you are perceived in the group than what you feel and what you think about yourself. And why is that? Because evolutionary, the Homo sapiens survived only in the group settings. We were smaller, dumber than the Neanderthal. The only thing which was more evolved with the Homo sapiens is that we collaborated and we communicated far better. And this is why every time when you are rejected by a group, the part which generates pain of the brain is getting activated. So you can feel physical pain when you get group rejection. It's close to feeling death. Because in general, evolutionary, when the tribe rejected you, almost certainly you died. So there is the management of impression which says, I don't want to look ignorant. It means I don't ask questions, because if I ask questions, does anyone has a question? Yes. You did not pay attention. You are ignorant. Okay. I don't want to seem incompetent. You know, and I did something wrong today, because I said, at the first answer I received today, I said, okay, anybody else? And what was the next thought from the audience? It was the wrong answer. If we do not get validated, we presume that we were wrong. And this means we don't want to seem incompetent. I want to give you an answer, but I want to give the right answer, not the wrong answer, because we are afraid of failure. Again, we don't want to seem intrusive. I would want to tell you my real opinion, but you never asked. And if you never ask me, I will never tell you. You know, one of the most useless thing, when I learned this, you know, when I was learning English, and I said, how do you do? And I said, fine, thank you. No. When somebody says, how do, you respond with, how do you do? And I said, but you asked me, how do I do? No, you don't need to answer. And also when in a normal work setting, you go in the work, every answer besides, I'm good, it's not a good answer. You need to create the setting in order to be able to talk about something. When I said, how are you? I'm not asking you, how are you? We are just using phrases. And you don't want to feel negative. If you say negative things, if you are criticizing, again, your status quo is affected in the group. And what happens then? Somebody says something on the stage, I don't understand. I'm asking you, do you have a question? No hands up. Why? Because I don't understand what happened before. I didn't understand your presentation. And then Gallup asked the people, how clear is it for you what is expected of you at your work? And this is the answer, historical answer from 2007 until 2023. And very funny thing, I just looked at the data from 2024 because always 1 year back, it's 41%. So you look at people at work, 72% plays for survival, and 41% actually knows what is expected of him. and we are talking about performance. Without psychological safety, we do not have the courage to clarify what is expected of us. And this generates for us a very high level of uncertainty. And for our brain, there is no bigger threat than uncertainty. I read a study about cancer patients, and there were 3 groups of patients. The first group knew exactly that he has very, very good prospects. The second group knew that it's very bad prospects, and the third group knew nothing. The level of stress was more than double at the third group than the people who actually knew that they have little time to left. We cannot tolerate uncertainty. If you are in this position that you go to work every day and you don't know for sure what is expected of you, you are stressing out every day. And this is why we should have much more crucial conversation at work. Because in my experience, 99.9% of the people goes to work with positive intentions. But we were never taught how to interact with each other. We were never taught how to create psychological safety. We were never taught how to listen. I read a lot of relationship books saying in a relationship you should listen. And I also always said, I'm always listening, otherwise I couldn't give all the good solutions. Listening means you don't interrupt, you don't judge. You are actually there actively participating without saying anything, and again, doing something after the conversation ends. In management, many times we say, if I stayed there and I politely listened and I nodded, I did my job. If nothing happens afterwards, you didn't do your job. Because you did the act of listening, but you didn't do any kind of follow-up. And we humans, we have expectations when we talk with each other. If we do a bit more follow-up, our organization can radically change. And I didn't give you the statistics in order to depress you. What I'm trying to highlight here is 72% of us wants to do it better. And it's not up to managers and leaders to generate psychological safety. It's also up to us to express our feelings and needs at the workplace. And how can we do it? Look at inclusion and diversity. And many times we are talking about inclusion and diversity in an American way. We are saying at Trend we have inclusions and diversity because half of the people are women, and we have also a Hungarian guy, me. So we are a diverse company. Inclusion and diversity means, how can we live with ideas which contradict our own ideas? And you know what the Special Forces is doing here? By the way, the headquarters of the Special Forces is here at Târgu-Mureș. And one of my good friends, Csibi, who was 17 years a Special Forces officer, told me, after you get accepted in the Special Forces, they choose the guy who is the total opposite of you, and they put you together with him in a team. Why is that? Because this way you never presume that you are right. Every time you think that you had a great idea, the other guy will say, no, you don't. It's a stupid idea. And they are saying, if you are able to develop the skill to get the right solution with a guy who is radically different with you, this is the right solution. And they are constantly training them not to presume that they are right. And I asked Csibi, after many years with your partner, are you friends? And he said, no, I would never go out to drink a beer with him. But I would give my life to him, and I will trust him with my life. This is the difference. We don't need to like everybody at work, but we need to respect and understand everybody at work in order to have inclusion and diversity. And willingness for help. One of the biggest signals of psychological safety, do people offer me to help when it's hard for me? And everybody can do this. Everybody can offer help to people around when you see that somebody is struggling. Because statistics are saying that in Romania, 74% of the active working population had at least one burnout in the last 5 years. 54% of us had at least 2 episodes of burnout. That's not good, guys. Burnout is not something which is for a day. It takes weeks, months, sometimes years to to get past. We need to have this willingness to help in order to have safer organization. And there is the attitude to risk and failure. Many times we are saying, or companies are saying, oh, we want to encourage failure. And then the small blueprint, if it doesn't affect the numbers. So you are free to make mistakes if it's a small mistake. And learn big from it. Can you do that? No, you can't. And one of the most eye-opening conversations for me was with one of my friends, Horia Tecău, who was at some point, he was number one tennis player of the world in December. And I said, Horia, you did everything. You had the perfect year. And he said, Magor, how many tournaments did I have this year? And I said, no, 29. You know how many I actually won? How many? 7. You see the successes. You do not see the failures, but for me, every failure was a very, very hard one. Every failure put me on the ground that I needed to pick up myself and show up for the next tournament. What I'm trying to say, now that we have social media, everybody is showing his best self, and it's discouraging. I look at everybody and everybody's rights in order, everybody has the dream career, the dream family, and so on, and I look at myself, and I'm saying, I'm falling apart. It's not good. Until you start to actually talk with people and you find out that the vacation photos are 3 years before. I just had the time now to post it. Of course. Why are we doing this? And open conversations is the most critical. An open conversation doesn't mean that we talk a lot. It means how many topics are we avoiding in our conversation. If you feel that you have a conversation which needs to happen, do it. It can be with your parents, it can be with your partner, it can be at your work. Because many times you will discover exactly what I discovered, we misjudge people. And we never take the courage to clarify if our assessment of the relationship is real or not. If you look at those 4, if you are a manager, you can go in your team and say, guys, do you feel that we have all this? Do you feel that we have open conversations? Do you think that when I fail, is my first reaction to judge you? Do you feel that I'm there for you? And funnily enough, in Romania, the hardest thing is not for us to be there for somebody when it's hard for him. For us, the hardest thing is to share the joy. Most of the people will show up for you if you are in a rough patch. It's much harder for people to feel the joy for you or with you. This is what we need to practice a bit more. And again, inclusion and diversity. And I'm telling you this because we had several episodes in the Romanian society in the last few months when we split 2 camps. And we are saying, those are stupid, no, you are stupid, everybody is stupid, nobody understands me. This is not constructive. Sometimes when you look at somebody and you don't like it, what you see, ask yourself, what this person is mirroring in me? Because it's not the other person, it's what you feel inside. If we do only this, our workplaces can change. And it's not about the numbers, it's not about the performance, it's about our well-being. I read a recent study which said, your manager has a higher impact of your mental hygiene than your wife or husband. Chew on that. And the big problem, nobody is trained to be a manager. We receive some training. I'm delivering some training. But learning what is empathy, what is authenticity, what is vulnerability, what is connection, what is listening, is just not happening unless we are all participating. So my invitation to you would be, let's start to have the difficult conversation. And let's try to be glad for each other. If we are doing only that, our life can radically change. And it seems complicated, but it's not. It just needs a bit more acceptance of who we are, and to accept that we are human, and we cannot win everything, but the most important thing is how we connect to other people around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Csibi. Amazing talk. I was really impressed. Now, we already have some questions. Don't forget to place your questions by scanning the QR code. Before switching to the questions, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, you said that conflict is very important in a couple.
Yes.
Now, my girlfriend is here, and in the past 5 years, we didn't have so many conflicts. And I'm really curious, we should start, like, tonight? I'm worried now.
Look at your body when you are saying this. If you feel something somewhere, maybe it should be a good starting point. But before initiating conflict, we could listen more. Every time you really listen, and you know what is the key of listening? Is the silence. So I'm saying, you can tell me whatever you want. And I have zero idea. And then I don't say anything. The longer the silence gets, the higher the probability that some real ideas will come out. And let me give you one example. I'm working with an executive team, and one of the guys is saying, this is how we work. We are making jokes, but everybody is resisting jokes. And I don't say anything. 30 seconds pass. You know, executives in the room, they start 30 seconds. 1 minute passes. And one of the guys says, I'm not really enjoying the jokes. And then we found out that 2 guys were making jokes and 7 were suffering. Funny thing, out of the 9 guys, everybody was doing the jokes, 2 because they thought they were funny, and the other 7 because they didn't want it to be the target of the jokes. So everybody did a behavior which nobody wanted to have in the team. And the 2 guys who were doing the jokes, they were not jerks. They actually thought that they are funny and they are appreciated because of their jokes. And when we clarified it, everybody was like, okay, now we understand what we should rethink about our group interaction. Sorry, it was a very long.
No, it's okay. I'm very comfortable with the silence back home.
Very nice.
How does the level of psychological safety in the board influence the rest of the organization? Is there a positive or negative spillover effect?
Culture is like a waterfall. If at the top of the organization there is high level of uncertainty and missing psychological safety, it's harder to feel safe down in the organization. But let me tell you something. There is a thing that we call bisericuțe. These are the natural answer of people. We are grouping with the people where we feel protected. So we tend to choose the groups where we feel protected. And if you go with a bisericuță, you will hear some open conversation. So these are the places when we are actually telling what we are actually feeling. And sometimes the executive is saying, and I was one of the executives, said, I need to destroy all the bisericuțe. That's very bad. Because this is the only place you can actually hear what people are listening. You need to embrace them, and you need to integrate them, and you need to listen to them. Because it has a reason. Gossip is not something you need to eliminate from an organization. It's something that you need to understand because it's telling that your team is not functioning.
Is psychological safety in larger corporations lower than in smaller ones?
No. Let me tell, I don't have it. Usually what I see, the number is high. And we are looking, we humans, we love numbers and statistics. And I look at a team and they said 85, I measure 85 is the number of psychological safety out of 100. And that's great, no? 8.5, it's a good result. But when you go inside the result and you see the spread, it says that half of the people feels very secure and half of the people is very low. So the understanding is to see which are the people who are excluded. The problem is, in organizations, we tend to reward people who are loud. Tend to reward the extroverts. We are many times confusing confidence with competence. And I did this. Most of my career, I was bullshitting everybody because I was able to give a high level of confidence. I was giving numbers and whatever. He's so confident, he must know what he's saying. Most of the time, I did not. But I learned that this is a very good way of going forward until you reach your level of incompetence. And I reached my level of incompetence in Korea, and then I realized I need to change something. And then I understood I have people around me to generate numbers or to generate performance, and they actually generate it without me. Many times, we put too much pressure on us, and we don't let people work. Exactly as Raluca said. You put pressure on you, and you don't let the people to deliver what they are trained to deliver.
Csibi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For your presentation.
Thank you.